to tell you how to boost business development by using S&P Capital IQ data with Navatar. We're coming to you today live from the Financial District in New York, where both firms are headquartered. I'm Alan Siegert with Navatar, and now I'll introduce our presenters today. From S&P Capital IQ, we have Lisa Meiselman, who is Vice President of Channel Partnerships. And from Navatar, we're joined by Ketan Kankar, the Chief Operating Officer. So we're going to talk about four things today. Number one, creating a marketing program for prospects and buyers and a multi-channel strategy to reach out to them. Second, we will see a specialized structured process for prospect management. Next, we will show you how to use the powerful Navatar tools to cultivate strong relationships with strategics and financial buyers. And finally, we'll show you how to avoid missing any key opportunities by consolidating all your key tools. Now let's take a look at a slide that will essentially give you a high-level view of everything we're going to show you today to help you get perspective. We'll be showing you Navatar's platform for M&A, but we also have similar platforms for corporate M&A, private equity, PERE, VC, and more. It's used by more than 600 firms in more than 35 countries. Navatar is built on the Salesforce platform, and that's where we set up the processes to execute your reach out and that your team can use to drive business development. Now you'll need actionable data. Look at the right side of the slide and you will see S&P Capital IQ. They have the data you need that can be integrated into Navatar where it becomes immediately actionable. Also on the platform is Navatar Deal Connect, where you can automatically, securely, and confidentially reach out to the buy side with teasers, gain responses, and track those interactions. The final piece is document management, and Navatar uses Box to securely manage, store, and share documents. So let's get started looking at the data side of things. Lisa, I think everyone has heard of S&P, but we are perhaps unaware of all the data that you have. Could you give us a brief overview about the data available that M&A firms can use to boost their business development?
Yes, of course. Thanks, Alan. Good afternoon, everyone. While many of you, as Alan mentioned, may be familiar with S&P Capital IQ, I wanted to take just a minute for those of you who are not. We provide multi-asset class and real-time data, research, and analytics to institutional investors, investment and commercial banks, investment advisors, and corporations around the world. As you can see from the slide, we are part of McGraw-Hill Financial. We're one of several divisions, including Standard & Poor's Rating Services, S&P Dow Jones Indices, and Platts. Most recently, S&P Capital IQ has been joined by S&L Financial, which is the premier provider of breaking news, financial data, and expert analysis on business sectors critical to the global economy. Looking at the next slide. So in working with Navatar, we saw an opportunity to create enormous value for clients by directly integrating our best-in-class company data right into Navatar, promoting both convenience and productivity. We narrowed down more than 100 data sets to the 5 or 6 most important ones we heard our clients needed on 4 million plus global public and private companies, which includes more than 450,000 middle market potential targets. So here are the highlights of the data you'll see in just a short bit. These are profiles including detailed descriptions of numbers of employees and industries, financials for public companies, which includes about 30 variables with 3 years of history, profiles on 3.4 million professionals and board members with their bios, key developments, which is our curated news summaries, and some corporate hierarchy information, including subsidiaries, direct investments, and competitors for those companies. From a functionality perspective, we developed a few things. We developed a screener that enables you to search or filter on companies, people, and key developments based on criteria you set. And then there's an enrich feature which allows you to selectively add data into your accounts and people as contacts. We also provide a link to a PDF tear sheet on each company. And for users who also take advantage of the Capital IQ proprietary platform, we provide a single sign-on link back to the platform, as well as the ability to mass upload lists into Navatar, leveraging the company IDs. Overall, the app is designed to help users quickly and easily access the robust Capital IQ data right within Navatar. Next, Keaton is going to show you a live demo of how to make this data actionable so you can boost your business development.
Thanks, Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ketan Khankar from Navatar Group. Thank you all for joining this webinar. And as Alan and Lisa have mentioned, we will focus on how, with the combination of the Navatar system as well as the S&P Capital IQ data, how you can use that to manage and boost your business development process, manage buyer profiles, but effectively kind of make sure that you maximize the chance of kind of not missing out on an opportunity. I'll take the next few minutes to walk through certain scenarios, and kind of based on our experience, we come across several customers who kind of ask us the same question, which is there's so many companies in the areas that let's say I specialize in. How do I know about them? Secondly, how do I manage that process? Because internally, I just don't have the manpower to be able to reach out and talk to each one of those companies. So it is a tough challenge that most of our customers face. We have created a solution out here. Hopefully, when you see that, your takeaway will be that it's not as daunting as it initially seems to be. So we'll start with kind of how do you identify the companies. Then we'll go into what kind of information, how do you get intelligence about those companies. Third, we'll go into how do you create a structure that helps you organize and reach out to these companies in a systematic way. And all of this obviously is helping you getting new clients in, getting new mandates in, and helping you run your transactions and deals. So let's start with the first step. I want to maximize my outreach. I want to kind of identify all the companies that could potentially be clients for me. So I'll click on the S&P Capital IQ tab here. Now, there's several scenarios that you could run into, right? So one could be kind of you want to, depending on your focus area, maybe kind of use focus on specific things. An approach that many customers follow is kind of depending on what you're specializing, right? So let's say I'm looking at bankruptcies, right? So I tend to, or distressed debt, right? So I tend to get companies which are in distress, and one easy way to find that is to look at the news and see anybody who's been in the news. So I could do a search on that, maybe depending on my criteria. If I'm reaching out to kind of mid-sized companies, I can put a search filter in there, restricted to kind of certain revenues, and search through the S&P Capital IQ database. This actually does a live search, right? It will search through the database. It's looking at both public and private, and kind of it will give me results in terms of these are companies that have been in the news. So obviously I have the ability to now go down and look at specific details, look at kind of what's going on. And again, this is in context of the fact that kind of you are focused on this area, right? So if I'm focused on my clients kind of or using, let's say if I do a lot of distressed assets deals, then something like this may be interesting. This is a great way to kind of start the process where you can look at news, and that may also kind of identify potential clients that you should be reaching out to. But a more common scenario would be kind of I specialize in certain industries, and I may want to then review all the companies that are in there. So the S&P Capital IQ database allows me, and if you notice, I have not left the Navatar system at all, right? So I'm still in the Navatar system, but I have the ability now to go and specify my criteria. So maybe kind of, let's say I'm reaching out to, let's say my focus is United States. I can be more specific, but for now I'll keep it slightly generic, anywhere in the US, and kind of what do I want to search for, right? So I can specify any types of, obviously all these classifications are already set up in here. I can go and specify kind of whatever I uh, I'm interested in, right? So maybe it's oil and drilling. Again, I could limit myself to a mid-market focus. I can say, well, just show me all the companies between 10 and 50, and let me search and look at that database. So I got these results. If I feel these are too small, I can always go and expand on that search. But again, the whole idea is to be able to identify as many companies as I want to, which are in my specialized area of specializations, because these could all be potential clients. Now, I may not have a relationship with them, but this is now a definitive list, right? And so I can now go and look at their profile. I can choose the entire list. I can be selective, and I can add them into the Navatar system. So this is obviously just the first step. And kind of in the future, when I go and search the S&P Capital IQ database, it will tell me that these companies are already in my database, right? So I know that I have already imported them. So that's objective number one, which is getting a list of companies that are in my area of specialization. But that's just the first step. I still need a way to manage the relationship. I need a way to cultivate that relationship, establish or get some intelligence about these companies, reach out to them, communicate to them. So how do I manage that, right? So that's the next step of the process. Now, we recommend kind of creating a watch list. The concept is simple. These are companies in your target area. These are on my watch list. These are companies I need to be able to reach out to periodically. So I can look at my watch list at any point. And this is a dynamic watch list. The companies that I just added from the S&P Capital IQ search are automatically added to this watch list too. Right, so this becomes a watch list of companies. I can now kind of have a list, a target list that I want to manage. Now, there are two things. One is, now how do I start my outreach to these companies? Again, recognizing that I may not have the resources or the manpower to be able to reach out to each company individually. If your list is narrower, kind of, you can obviously reach out, but many cases kind of you'll have hundreds and thousands of companies in this list, and you want to make sure that you're reaching out periodically, so that they, from your perspective, you want to make sure that they know about you, they know about kind of the services that your firm provides. Because at this point, we don't know if any of these will even turn into a deal for us. And in most cases, what happens is kind of they're not ready for a deal at this point. Now, they may be ready a year or 2 years down the line. So it's a longer cycle. But 2 years from now, when they are looking for a type of transaction, I want to maximize my chances of being selected by this company. Right? Again, there are lots of boutique M&A firms, investment banks that are there. So it's a competitive environment. I want to maximize the chance of getting these as clients. And the only way to do that is for me to periodically be in touch, intelligently communicate with them, making sure that they know about us, also making sure that based on any interactions that I have with them, I can gain as much intelligence as I can and use it to fine-tune my communication. So I'll show you in the next few minutes what I mean by all of that. Let's take a look at an example. So Rockwell Medical, we downloaded this company from the S&P Capital IQ database. As I said, it automatically got added to my watch list. Now, I haven't done anything. All this data automatically got populated for me, so I can see the background about this company, where they're located. And if I scroll down, I can see a profile about this company. So a snapshot, some background details, and then I can kind of drill down into further details, right? So if I'm interested, I can then click on key developments to look at kind of if they've been in the news. I can look at any financial data that they have. Like in this case, I can see the last few years of earnings, any people that are associated. Again, I already have downloaded a couple, but if I want, I can always go and add more in here. So all of this is already set up in the system for me. I'll come back to this profile and cover this in more detail. So we have a list, like in this case, or a list of my watch list. This is my target companies that I want to start my outreach to. And for each of those companies, when I clicked into the details, I have some information that I have been able to consume from S&P Capital IQ. What we recommend at this point is creating a communication plan and a marketing initiative around that. So let's look at kind of my watch list communication. So you can very easily go and set up a marketing plan associated with all these companies that are on your watch list. What this allows you to do is obviously not just create a list, but now on a periodic basis, reach out to these companies. Right? So maybe kind of, and here's where we recommend creating a structure and a plan. Right? So some of the obvious things that everyone does is kind of have periodic newsletters, but everyone is doing that, right? So in terms of your communication plan and the way you think about it, it needs to be more meaningful. So it could be about, for example, an event that you're organizing. It could be about a transaction that you completed. So something that will catch their attention, and also there'll be a call to action. Right? Something that makes them pick up the phone and reach out to you, or at least in their minds put you in the category of a firm that understands their market. Now, the actual outreach is pretty straightforward. You can create the list. You can email to this list at any point, so you can see the entire list, and then you can narrow down this list. We also recommend, as you're doing this communication, maybe the first email can go to everyone, but as you manage and track progress, you can filter down. So every communication that you're sending out does not need to go to every company on your watch list. So you can do that and then create communication templates that you can use, right? So here's some examples. We talked about newsletters, but it'll be great if let's say there was a transaction. You can just quickly create an email communication around that, or a great thing is an event. So if you're in a specific city, you can narrow the list down to that city and invite them for let's say a networking event, and then send out an email communication to them. This is something you should be doing on a periodic basis. What will happen though, so you're doing this outreach to all these companies. You have this list of companies that you already have in your watch list. Now, based on your outreach, some of these companies may reach out to you, and in that case, you'll have a conversation with them. So again, going back to my example, if say Rockwell Medical got your communication, they kind of sent you a note that they were interested in a discussion. Now you need to prepare for that meeting. You need to kind of gather as much information as possible about this company, and that's again something that you can using the manage using the S&P Capital IQ data. So we talked about you can see this information. But a great thing out here is this concept of a tear sheet, where I can quickly create a summary sheet that allows me to prepare for this meeting that I'm having with Rockwell Medical. So it's giving me a quick background, some information out here, profiles of kind of obviously the people, but as well as board members. And if I scroll down, financial details, as well as if they've been in the news, and it's kind of obviously as of today. So they were in the news last week, and it shows up in here. Again, a lot of times you don't have the time to do a lot of research on your own, so something like a tear sheet and the ability to just quickly generate it is a big help in there. And from there, once you have that, you can record the information, you can record what you discussed and capture all your notes in the Navatar system. Now, you'll also see the financial data associated with the company. This was also automatically downloaded from S&P Capital IQ. So far the process seems very straightforward, and it is. But what you have to also be cognizant of the fact is, again, I've just taken one example. You are managing hundreds or thousands of companies. Very soon you'll run into a different challenge, which is you lose track of who do you need to reach out to, who did you speak to last, or has it been more than 6 months? And we definitely recommend that for your watch list, make sure that you're touching base with them every 6 months. So how do you manage that, and how can the Navatar system help you now that you have this wonderful data from S&P Capital IQ, and you have this target list, and you're doing this marketing communication to them, and that's where some of these metrics will come in handy. Right, so our M&A product is obviously used for a lot more things. One of the processes is business development. Right? So here I can go, and now I can see, for example, I can see my breakdown of my watch list, right? So these are all the companies. So at least I always need to know kind of what the geographical presence is of my target list. It also helps from a travel perspective. Many of our customers tend to use kind of a mapping software also, which is a great way to manage your travel schedule. So for example, if I'm going to Texas or maybe a specific city, I can then kind of see on the mapping schedule on a map if there are other prospects who are close by, and that allows me to schedule meetings and manage my travel in a much more effective manner. So you can break it down by geography, you can break it down by hopefully these are the industries that you're focusing on, and your target list and your watch list is focused and kind of is aligned to that industry. But here's what I was referring to earlier. So we can at this point automatically and proactively provide you with a list, and this makes it easier, because I don't have to think about which companies do we have we not reached out to, who should I be reaching out to next, because we can proactively tell you that, hey, these are companies that I need to reach out to next. It's been more than 6 months, and now I have a list, and it's much more easier. It's a filtered list, a much smaller list, something that's more manageable. Because when I'm thinking thousands, it just seems very daunting, very difficult to manage. But if it's now tens and 20s, much easier to manage. So creating a process and a structure allows you to manage it and break it into small chunks, so that it's something that can be handled with few resources. As part of the process, you should also kind of at least get a sense on how many of your target list companies are you touching every month. Right? And again, this allows you to track metrics and see kind of how your outreach is going on. If you have people focused on calling out from a business development perspective, you can obviously also track how many companies they are touching in any given month. So all this allows me to manage my business development process. And again, the key thing here is to establish relationships. And why is that important? Because when the company is ready to do a transaction, I stand a better chance of getting their business and getting them as a client if I already have a relationship, if I know their business, and and obviously the assumption is that I focus and I have services that are relevant to them. Then after this, you can manage the rest of the process. And again, the Navatar system will help manage the entire process from the time you get a new deal. So once you get a client, you can run these as deals. You can so if I go to a specific example of a deal. So once you get a client through your business development process for any transaction that you're running with them, we now make it much more easier to manage the second part of the process. And so obviously it involves creating lists of buyers, being able to reach out to these buyers. It becomes very easy to manage it now in the system. So I can actually search on previous transactions. So I can go and say, hey, let me look at the buyer list that we had used to reach out to for my applied systems deal. And I want to reuse that list. I want to reach out to these buyers also for this particular deal. So we make it easier to create the buyers list. We make it easier to manage the process of outreach to your buyers. But this is all the second part of the process. The focus of today's webinar was on the business development aspect, to get the information in so that you can get clients. Right? But once you have the information in, you can then manage the deal. You can create your list of buyers. You can manage your outreach to buyers, and all of that can be managed very easily through our system. Now, the other thing to note there also is for all these buyers. Right? So let's go into an example. So in this case, I'm working on this transaction for a client. I'm reaching out to several buyers. Carlyle Group happens to be one of the buyers. Right? So I can click in here, look at what's going on with Carlyle Group about this particular deal, and I have all the details in here. But if I go one level up, your buyers will also have their profile. And this is again a place where S&P Capital IQ will have data. So you can the focus was to use the S&P Capital IQ database to get prospects and list of prospects. But I also wanted you guys to be aware that even for your buyers, so I'm looking at Carlyle Group, I will be able to see obviously their financials. But again, if I scroll down, I can see the profile that S&P Capital IQ has about this buyer. Right? So information, developments, transactions that they have done, who the key people are, all of that. So you'll see rumors and discussions. Right? So you can see what have they been involved in. And again, granted, in this case, Carlyle is a huge company, but the point was that even your buyers, you'll have profiles about these buyers in the system, and you can use that information and that research to help manage the other side of the relationships, which is the networking and the relationship you need to have with your buyers. So that's what we wanted to show in today's webinar in terms of using the Navatar M&A system, which was designed around the entire M&A process, but how can that in conjunction with the S&P Capital IQ data help you create a business development process that is more efficient, also allows you to reach out to more companies, and obviously work with a more relevant list of target companies that are aligned to the services and specialization that your firm has. With that, I guess I'll turn it back over to Alan, and I guess at this point, yes.
Yeah, thanks for a great demo on a live system. So we appreciate it. That was wonderful. We are getting some questions, and if you want to ask a question, just enter it into the GoToWebinar panel on your screen, and we'll get to them. The first question looks like it's for Lisa. Is the S&P Cap IQ data limited to domestic data, or do you have global coverage?
It's global. Our coverage is global. That 4 million plus companies is worldwide.
Here's a second question. Does Navatar come with S&P Cap IQ data preloaded? Well, it doesn't. You need to have a relationship with S&P to obtain and use your data. The good news is that Lisa, who's on our webinar today, can absolutely help you with that. Let's see. Lisa, this next question is for you. Could you recap what data you have for the middle market, and how would I find out, for example, if you have information on manufacturing companies in the middle market? How would that work?
Okay. So I think I threw out a figure of at least 450,000 middle market companies across our database globally. Within the app, you could do a very simple screen on revenue, so you can ban the revenue, and I think Keaton showed an example of doing that. And then you can also limit that screen or filter to specific industries. So you can look for middle market firms within specific industries, and we list several very granular industries from there, and you can get your results set from there.
Right. Next, we have a question about setting up the processes that Keaton showed. Do these come with the system, or do we have to do the work ourselves? Well, Navatar does come pre-built with the workflows for M&A. The setup of the product is included, along with unlimited training and customization of the product. At any time you want to make a change, including to a report or a dashboard, our concierge team can do it for you at no charge. So how does S&P go about getting its company data? So Lisa, this question is for you. They also want to know how current the data is.
Sure. So we have more than 4,000 individuals globally collecting data on a daily basis and updating our data real time throughout the day. We use primary source, secondary source, what have you, to collect all that data and keep it fresh. The data in the database is updated nightly.
All right, thank you. The last question is about mobile. Can I see my data on a mobile device? And yes, we understand that all our clients and all of you are always traveling. It's available on iPhones, iPads, and Android devices, tablets, and so on. So that's it for our webinar on showing how to boost deal origination using S&P Capital IQ with Navatar. Our thanks to Keaton Conker and Lisa Meiselman of S&P Capital IQ. If you want to know more about Navatar or S&P Capital IQ, please feel free to reach out to us directly. Our contact information is here, and Lisa, I apologize, we should have you on this screen as well. What's the best way to reach you if someone's interested in getting Capital IQ or has a question?
Similarly, my phone and email. I think maybe in a follow-up to the attendees, we can send that out as well. If anyone has any questions about S&P Capital IQ or the data, I'm happy to talk to you.
Or send me an email, and I'll make sure that Lisa gets it.
Sure, that works.
And also let us know if you'd like a recording of today's webinar. We'd be happy to send it to you. So thank you all for attending. That's it. Have a great day.